Hello and welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to another reading of A Starstruck Legacy. This will be Chapter 8, Make Like a Locomotive and Train. Here's the summary. Izuku prepares for internships, then he does internships. It ain't that complicated. I must say, Kathleen, I didn't know that you'd know your way around the kitchen as well as you do, Inko said as she watched Kathleen chop the vegetables with the practiced ease of a gourmet chef. Is your quirk helping you on that front? Kathleen snorted. Nah, I got a whole squadron of boys to cook for. At least when Ryan stops being a perfectionist and lets me into the kitchen, you wouldn't believe what me and the boys have to go through to get him to take a day off. Inko giggled. Well, with a quirk like yours, I think I'd believe just about anything. True that. Oh, watch this. She tossed an onion into the air and diced it into little bits before it hit the counter. She gave a small grin and put her hands on her hips, hoping that would impress Inko, and judging by the look on her face, she thought it did. You're incredible, Kathleen, Inko gaped, a dash of red dusting her cheeks. Oh, it was nothing. Kathleen tried to play it cool, but she was mentally cheering at the reaction she managed to get out of her. God, that face was adorable. Inko grabbed a leek off the counter and tossed it upwards as well. Here, let me try next. Kathleen was initially hesitant, but that feeling quickly disappeared when Inko used her quirk to stop the vegetable in midair before she started chopping. Hey, not too shabby, Kathleen complimented as she nudged Inko with her elbow. Well, I have to keep up in the presence of a pro hero. Inko gave a soft smile with a bit of a competitive edge. Kathleen grinned, prepared to tackle that challenge head on. Well, I wouldn't mind adding a little flair to our cooking. If you can keep up, that is. Inko's grip on her knife tightened. Don't underestimate my skills in the kitchen, Kathleen. I am a mother, after all. As Inko and Kathleen began their impromptu cooking competition, Izuku and Toshinori both watched them with knowing looks on their faces. I'll give them a week, Toshinori stated. I'll give them until the end of next chapter, Izuku rebutted. While we wait until then, why don't we discuss your quirk, as well as your admittance into the hero course, specifically regarding your relationship with the support course. I'll probably go for a dual course. I might already have my hero suit made, but that doesn't mean I can't help other people with their support items. You already have your costume made? Toshinori asked in surprise. Yeah, check it out. Izuku pulled out his phone and showed his mentor a picture of him in a black bodysuit, covered in light blue thin metal plating. It almost gave him the appearance of a knight. The only thing he was missing was a helmet and a sword. It might look blocky, but it's made with minus nanotech, making it both protective and flexible. Izuku let out a small chuckle. May was not too happy when she found out who helped me. You gosh darned homewrecker! May yelled as she chased Mina around the lab with a railgun that she was somehow lugging around despite its weight. Greeny was supposed to be my business partner. Not my fault he doesn't need any dangerously explosive weapons, Mina taunted as she dodged another shot. Oh, I'll show you dangerously explosive. Right. Toshinori quickly elected to move on to the next topic. Why don't we shift gears to your quirk acquisition? Right. A look of uncertainty found its way onto Izuku's face. It's gonna be weird having to explain to everyone how the kid who won the sports festival without a quirk suddenly has one now, not to mention how powerful it is. What am I even gonna call it in the quirk registry? I suggest something simple like reality warp. That way it could be easy to pass off One For All's abilities as mere offshoots of that. Good idea, let's go with that, Izuku nodded. But what am I supposed to tell Ochako and my other classmates? I'm not sure if I can lie to them. Toshinori tilted his head down as he raised an eyebrow. Young Midoriya, I don't think there's anything you can't do at this point. What are you talking about? Just because I have a quirk doesn't mean I can suddenly lie. Are you sure? Of course I am. It's not like I can say, I'm good at lying, and then suddenly I'm... Izuku halted his train of thought as his mind came to a realization. Looks like someone's a bit slow on the grind, En jested from inside Izuku's head. He's talking about you, Hikage clarified, as if he didn't understand what sarcasm was. In my defense, I'm still figuring this stuff out, Izuku replied to both Toshinori and the voices inside his head. That you are, my boy, Toshinori responded, which is why both young Kathleen and I will be taking you in during internship week. Izuku had to fight back the urge to squeal with glee, for he had a pressing question to ask. Hold on, I thought UA teachers weren't allowed to take on interns. They're not, but nothing's stopping me from borrowing you from young Kathleen's internship for a few hours at a time. What the school board doesn't know won't hurt them. Toshinori gave an obvious wink, which Izuku returned. Ooh, I'm so excited! Izuku vibrated in his seat so hard that it shook the ground beneath him. But I still don't know how I'm going to explain that to my new class. Or my sudden quirk acquisition, for that matter. Never fear, my boy. I've already come up with a perfect cover story. Toshinori proudly beamed as he handed Izuku a note card. Izuku eyed the note card up and down, quickly memorizing its contents. Yeah, people will definitely buy this. I didn't think you were so good at cover stories, All Might. All part of being a hero, my boy. Why, you should see what secrets Wash has been hiding. The number 8 pro hero, Wash, walked down the city streets on his scheduled patrol. Even though he had been doing this for nearly 9 years now, that lingering sense of paranoia still held with him. They must never learn his darkest secret. They must never find out he was actually a collection of ferrets stuffed in a washing machine. Several days later, at UA. All right, class, Aizawa drawled as he walked up to the teacher's podium. Welcome back, hope you had a nice break, yada yada yada. We have 2 new students who placed high enough in the sports festival to join the hero course. At their cue, Izuku and Ochako walked into the classroom, with Izuku looking slightly more on edge. I'm Ochako Uraraka. Please be nice to me, she bowed. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Likewise. Tenya quickly shot his hand up. Question, Mr. Aizawa. Not that I don't appreciate the new additions to the class, but why were both students transferred to 1A instead of one going to 1B? Because that rat loves to torture me, Aizawa grumbled. This was 100% true. Nezu was still bitter over the whole expelling an entire class fiasco from last year. I'll give you until the rest of homeroom to get acquainted. Aizawa zipped up his sleeping bag. Just don't blow anything up while I'm sleeping. At those words, he fell flat on his face and began to snore loudly. Is he okay? Izuku asked as he stared at his teacher's unconscious body. He'll be fine. That's just how he falls asleep quickly, Kirishima assured. But hey, you two were so manly during the sports festival. I mean, your fight was off the charts. Yeah, you guys totally slayed it, Kami complimented. Uraraka, your boots were stylish as heck. Oh, you can thank Izuku for that. He was the real brains behind the operation. She patted her friend on the shoulder, who seemed to appreciate the touch. Mina's eyes widened at the casual interaction. Ooh, you two are already on a first-name basis? We're just friends, both of them said at once. At the sight of the duo's flushing cheeks, Mina, Toru, and Kami shared several knowing glances with each other. So hey, Kaminari slid close to Izuku. What kind of crazy robots can we expect from you next? Not too much, I'm afraid, Izuku sheepishly admitted. I already told Ochako this, but my quirk kind of manifested sometime after the sports festival. That's odd. Momo pressed her thumb to her chin. Late bloomer quirks are certainly a rarity in this day and age. Were there any specific activation requirements you were previously unaware of? There were, but in order to understand that, I have to tell you how my quirk works. What does it do? Ojiro asked. It's called reality warp. A wave of intrigue spread across the entire class upon those words. Izuku was just glad he had his lying order set beforehand. It basically allows me to impose rules on whatever I can both touch and identify. To demonstrate, Izuku pulled out a granola bar from his pocket. If I said, this granola bar tastes like mochi, it will taste like mochi. Without missing a beat, he tossed the granola bar to Ochako, who immediately devoured it. His quirk is heckin' awesome, you guys. Yeah, it is, Sero cheered. If he can do anything, he can do anything. But you still haven't explained why you couldn't activate it for so long, Jiro pointed out. Right, Izuku continued. To impose a rule, I have to believe really hard. But I had to believe in myself before I could believe in anything else. It was a whole self-confidence issue, and winning the sports festival gave me the confidence to finally activate my quirk. That's kinda weird, Ribbit, said Suyu. Well, quirks are weird? Can't argue with that, shrugged the frog girl. As Izuku glanced around the classroom, he mentally thanked Toshinori for his cover story. He felt relief that his entire class seemed to buy it. Heck, even Katsuki looked convinced. In fact, he looked almost concerned. Izuku couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking. Gosh darn it, blast it! It makes too much sense, Katsuki mentally screamed. I'll say, Midoriya's like the least confident person both of us know, his conscience added. You're back. I was hoping you'd forget our deal and leave me alone forever. Blame yourself for having such a good memory, Kats. I'm here because you got some conflicting thoughts up in that cranium of yours. No, I don't. Deku had a quirk this whole time. Big whoop. Like I'm gonna let that stop me from becoming the number 1 hero. Yeah, I know. You're beginning to sound like a broken record. If you're just here to be smart, I appreciate it if you'd kindly blast it off. No thanks. How about we review the facts instead? Katsuki could feel his conscience taking out an imaginary list to read off of. Midoriya has a quirk that he hasn't been able to use due to a lack of confidence. This is true, correct? Makes too much sense not to be, Katsuki grumpily admitted. Now, whose fault do you think it is that Midoriya lacked the confidence in the first place? Who was responsible for beating him down and telling him, "It was me," Katsuki said abruptly, with little emotion. Okay, his conscience reacted with surprise. I thought it would take a little more convincing to get you to admit that. If it didn't, you wouldn't shut the heck up. I'm glad I annoyed you enough to force you to get in touch with your emotions, Katsuki's conscience said with false sincerity, and all it took was learning the direct consequences of your actions. Better late than never, I suppose. Now we can make things right with him. Don't go pushing your luck, idiot. Just because I feel bad about what I did to Deku, stop calling him that, doesn't mean I'm gonna do nothing about it. I don't care what kind of new power he has. It's probably not even that good. I'm still gonna surpass him, and you know it. I thought you recognized that it's okay for you to not be number one all the time. I did, but this is a personal matter. I'm gonna prove myself better than him specifically. Do you hear that? That's the sound of me rolling my non-existent eyes. Katsuki's conscience let out a disgruntled sigh. But I suppose progress is progress, no matter what bad habits you're falling back into. Shut up! It's not a bad habit. Imagine me raising an eyebrow out of skepticism. All right, nap's over. Get back to your seats, Aizawa said as he got up and turned on the classroom's projector. It's time to talk about internships. Most of you got requests. Pick your favorite agency and blah blah blah. Ochako's eyes bulged at the number accompanying her name. What? That's a lot of internships! How do you think I feel? Izuku wheezed exasperatedly. He didn't expect to have the second greatest number of internship requests, only triumphed by Todoroki. Try not to give yourself a heart attack, kid, Banjo chuckled. I think I'm struggling on that front, Izuku admitted. Why do you care? Aren't you going with Star and All Might? En asked. It's the principle of the thing, Yoichi explained. I thought the little rat dude was the principle of the thing, said Banjo. It's called a high school, Einstein, En rolled his eyes. You have a week to decide on who you'll be taking, so choose wisely, Aizawa continued, his trademark creepy grin creeping up his face. But before you can decide on that, there's a much more pressing issue to deal with, one that will define you as heroes for the rest of your career. The class instinctively shuddered at that. None of them could truly say they knew what potential horrors awaited them. Hero names! Yelled Midnight as she entered the room by kicking down the door. Okay, maybe they did. Midnight, that door was expensive and 15 feet tall. Doesn't matter, it's time for hero names. She shoved Aizawa aside and slammed her hands down on the podium. All right, kids, who wants to present first? Don't be shy now, she said with a wink. Oh, I do. Pick me. Ochako waved her hand frantically. You're up first, little lady. Try not to embarrass yourself. Ochako did her best to ignore her teacher's teasing as she presented her whiteboard to the class. I'll be the gravity hero, Uravity. Hums of approval emanated throughout the class, but none were louder than Izuku's. He really wanted to show his friends some support. Very fitting and punny. Approved. Midnight turned back to the class. All right, who's next? As the class presented their hero names one by one, Izuku couldn't help but struggle with his own decision. All his classmates had such cool hero names. Froppy, Red Riot, Charge Bolt, Sugar Rush, Camelusion, Alien Queen, Ground Zero, Captain Sparkles. Okay, maybe Aoyama's wasn't that cool, but still. Izuku mentally looked over his list of hero names for himself. After removing all the cringy ones like Mighty Boy or Small Might, he had a couple of decent ones, including, but not limited to, Thuban, Orion, Reorder, Limit Break, Rising Sun, All-Star, Scribblenaught, Atlas Prime, Scion, Astra, Ruler, etc. He noticed quickly that a lot of his names were star-related. He couldn't help it, he wanted to pay homage to the first person to truly encourage him. But while all those names were good, none of them described the kind of hero he wanted to be. He wanted to live up to the legacy of both One for All and New Order. What kind of name could summarize that? You could throw subtlety out the window, Nana advised. I mean, the number 2 hero's name is literally Endeavor. All Might's not that subtle of a hero name either, Yoichi brought up. Yeah, spell it out for all those people in the crowd who don't understand the deeper meaning of things, Banjo yelled. Like you? En joked. Yeah, like me. I'm a himbo and I'm proud of it. Thanks, guys. I think I know what I want now. The perfect name to help me live up to their legacies. Izuku smiled with determination as he walked up to the podium and showed off his whiteboard. My hero name is Himbo. No, shouted every vestige at once, including the half-vestiges of Toshinori and Kathleen. I mean Legacy. My hero name is Legacy. Approved, Midnight yelled. You wouldn't have been able to use Himbo anyways. Over 50 heroes worldwide have that name. That's a disturbing amount. So, Ochako, where are you going to go for your internship? Izuku asked as they sat down for lunch. Well, after being choked out of the sports festival, I figured I should get to know how to get out of a chokehold. I think Gunhead would be the right pick for me. Again, I'm super sorry about that. Don't be. I'm glad you could help me raise awareness of my blind spots as a hero. I just wish I could do more for you. Come on, don't be like that, Ochako. You being my friend already helps so much. I haven't had many friends before UA, so I'm glad I could be around someone as nice and cool and confident as you. She playfully slugged him on the arm. That's real cheesy, Izuku. You know that? I couldn't help that I'm cheesy. It's true. Well, I guess I could say the same about you, Izuku. Izuku felt his heart clench at Ochako's soft smile. He liked to meet whatever god decided to make her so distractingly cute. He wanted to have a chat. Suddenly, Mina slid up to the pair, donning a mischievous grin. Ooh, did I hear what I think I just heard? Toru slid up to Mina and the stage whispered, I think you did. This is a total best friends to lovers scenario. Kami slid right up between her two gal pals. They totally got the riz on each other. Shut up, all three of you, Jiro scolded as she jabbed her jacks into each of their necks and dragged them off. You'll have to excuse these idiots. They enjoy enabling each other. To distract from how red their faces were getting, Izuku elected to start a conversation with the first person he saw. Hey, Ida, where are you going for your internship? Ah, I'm glad you asked, Midoriya. I'm going with the normal hero, Manuel. That's a good choice. With all the craziness that comes with heroics, it can be easy to forget about standard procedures. I'm sure this decision was made with no ulterior motive in mind. That's right. No ulterior motives to speak of. What about you? Izuku didn't know what to say. Would letting his classmates know he would be interning under Star and Stripe attract any unwanted attention? Then again, there was a high likelihood they'd be going on at least one patrol during their time together, where their relationship as hero and mentor would be revealed to the public. That was just the kind of thing that happened during internships. He might as well rip the band-aid off now. Would you believe if I said Star and Stripe sent me a request? I mean, your quirk does sound similar to hers, Ribbit. Sue butted in. Also, she has been seen patrolling around Japan as of late. Oh, those two things are completely unrelated, Izuku tried to assure. She's probably looking for another fireworks truck or something. I never said they were related, Ribbit. Good, then you have no reason to suspect anything. Suyu narrowed her eyes, but otherwise didn't say anything. Izuku wasn't sure what that meant. He was kind of scared. The minute Katsuki finished reading over his internship requests, he immediately knew his top choice. Huh, I wasn't expecting Shishido, his conscience commented. Why are you so heckin' surprised? Katsuki thought back. You were the one who said I didn't have to be the best or whatever. So instead of the number 3 hero, you went for the number 13 hero, aka the second highest ranked hero who sent you an offer. Hey, I'm taking your advice, aren't I? Yeah, I hope you remember that the lion hero is known for his brash temper, a temper you might find all too familiar. I can handle him. Famous last words. Izuku excitedly ran onto the beach for his first day of internships. Better yet, it was a beach he recognized. Ah, young Midoriya, Toshinori greeted when he noticed his protege's presence. You're here a few minutes earlier than expected. I already knew my way here. I used to scavenge these piles of trash for parts. Ah, I was wondering why some of these piles looked smaller. It seems as if you've already made great progress. Progress? It suddenly dawned on Izuku as to why he was asked to meet his teacher out here. His eyes widened and his pupils dilated. You want me to clean the entire beach? All Might puffed up into his muscle form. I sure do. You already have a decent enough foundation, but in order to safely use One for All without the assistance of New Order, you have to go plus ultra. Izuku steeled himself as he stood up straight with a look of conviction on his face. I'm up to the task, sir. His stance faltered a bit, but I'm not sure if I can do the entire beach in a week. We'll do as much as we can now and chip away at the rest for the next few months. Sounds good, Izuku nodded, but before I start, I should probably let you know that my body produces more human growth hormone and hemoglobin. That way, my muscle mass and stamina will increase at a faster rate. Toshinori nodded approvingly. By using New Order to supplement your training, very smart of you, young Midoriya, but I must warn you, even with that, your muscles will still ache by the end of our session. That won't be a problem if I don't feel pain. Then how would you know if a sharp piece of metal grazed your skin? It could very well become infected without you noticing. Shoot, you're right. Izuku revoked the order as he tried to come up with a new one. Ha, I get it. I can still notice the pain without it being a detriment if I'm a masochist. Young Midoriya, no! Izuku's first day of beach cleaning went smoothly from there. After a few hours, Kathleen stopped by the beach to start with New Order training. Alright, kiddo, time to learn your new quirk inside and out. Sounds good, Izuku nodded, but before we begin, I have a quick question. How do you have time to train me while still being the #1 hero in another country? Great question, kid. That leads me to my first point, the perks of being a reality warper. Observe. Kathleen stood up as straight as she could and called upon her quirk. I will get a full night's sleep in 5 seconds. The moment the words left her mouth, her head drooped down and she snored for exactly 5 seconds before her eyes shot open. It helps if you learn to sleep while standing up. Couldn't I also use a New Order so I wouldn't have to eat? You could, but I'd rather not. I find that with every piece of your daily routine you eliminate, you slowly become less human and more like a machine that just goes through the motions. Then your pattern continues until you slowly deprive yourself of all feelings and joy and accomplishment and leave yourself as an empty husk of a person until you have no choice but to... Kathleen stopped herself before this conversation could get any bleaker. Just don't overdo it, kid. Okay, I won't. Izuku gave her a shaky thumbs up. Changing the subject? I found out I can replicate quirks. Yeah, so can I. I just don't do it too often because these puppies get most of my job done. Kathleen drew attention to her biceps with a tight flex. But I do borrow Claire's quirk when I need to locate civilians to evacuate a building. Claire? As in the international pro-hero clairvoyance? That's her real name? Yup, Kathleen said, popping the P. Weird, but then again, the same thing applies to Snipe, not that I plan on using a gun during my hero career. So I can assume you've already tried out your fair share of quirks? Kathleen asked. Sure have. You should have seen me the day I used Kachan's quirk. Izuku sighed wistfully. There was so much fire. Kathleen tried to push down the fears of possibly training a future arsonist as she cleared her throat. Right. On that topic, you need to know what orders to use in what situations. Efficiency is key when saving lives, after all. She pulled out a pile of flashcards from her pocket and shuffled them in her hands. Here's how this will work. I'll list off a situation, and you respond with the order you think you should use. But you have to respond quickly. After all, you don't have time to hesitate when there are lives on the line. Ready? Ready. Okay, here goes. She pulled out a flashcard and quickly read off this situation. You have to evacuate a building. I have Clairvoyance's quirk, Izuku responded, instinctively activating New Order. That one was a freebie. Next up, there's an earthquake. The earthquake will stop. Gotta be more specific. The tectonic plates will stop shifting. Much better. Next up, there's a villain with a laser quirk. I have Shoto Aizawa's quirk. His eyes can disable emitter and transformation type quirks. Well, there go half my scenarios. Kathleen threw a handful of flashcards behind her back. Next up, there's a lot of injured people. Anyone within 50 feet of me will gain increased healing capabilities. That was a trick question. There might be villains within those 50 feet. Next one, wildfire. All air within 5 miles of me will cool to 60 degrees. Too sharp a change in temperature. All air within 5 miles of me will slowly cool to 60 degrees. Much better. Next one, Godzilla's attacking the city. That's a trick question. All I need is a Texas smash. And... oh, right. Godzilla will freeze in place. Gotta make sure he doesn't fall on any buildings. Good, great, excellent. Next one. Alright, young Midoriya, it's time for combat training, Toshinori announced as he got into a fighting stance. Izuku eagerly mimicked his mentor's stance. Yes, I've been waiting for this. I hardly know how to throw a punch. His stance faltered as he suddenly came to a realization. No, wait. I know how to throw a punch. Upon activating New Order, Izuku threw a few punches before pulling out his notebook to write down some notes on his form and stance. Even if I forget how to punch when I revoke the order, I can still write down the correct way to do it and learn from that. It's like I'm being taught by my future self. Oh, okay. Toshinori hung his head low as he dejectedly slumped away from his protege. He was looking forward to teaching Izuku how to fight. Hold on, All Might. I still need someone to spar with. Toshinori immediately perked back up and excitedly ran over to Izuku. They did 18 rounds of quirkless sparring that afternoon, and Toshinori won every single time. Izuku held in his puke as he dizzily stumbled off the head of one of Star's fighter jets. What was standing on the head of a plane while it flew at Mach 2 supposed to teach me again? Concentration, posture, perception, endurance, and general awesomeness, Kathleen listed as she leapt off the jet and onto the sands of Dagobah Beach. Oh, there you two are. Kathleen turned to see Inko running up to them, carrying a bento. Izuku forgot his lunch. I'm just glad you two are training so close to home. Thanks, Mom. Izuku stumbled over and took the bento. I'm sure this'll taste great. Inko noticed her son mumble something to the box, and her eyebrows furrowed. Don't you dare use new order to make it taste like katsudon, young man. I worked hard on that. Izuku gave a nervous grin. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Inko tutted as she shook her head. You'd think that the boy would get sick of katsudon after having katsudon for every meal. Kathleen chuckled. Believe it or not, I did the same thing when I was a kid. Everything I ate tasted like Cinnamon Toast Crunch for a year straight. I say, let him have it. It ain't easy riding on a fighter jet for the first time. Kid deserves a treat. Inko nervously shifted her gaze to the fighter jet in question. Are you sure he'll be safe standing on that thing? I mean, I know he has super durability, but falling off a plane is a big deal. I assure you, Inko, it's safer than most roller coasters. In fact, I bet even you can handle it. You up for a flight? Kathleen grinned, sensing a possible opportunity for romance. Okay, as long as you hold on to me to make sure I don't fall. Kathleen mentally pumped her fist in excitement. This would be just like that magic carpet scene from Aladdin. As the fighter jet parted the clouds and the sun shone on the horizon, Kathleen took in a deep breath to really get a whiff of that high-altitude air. There was nothing like it. Beautiful, isn't it? She asked Inko. I'm gonna die! Inko screamed as she held on to Kathleen for dear life. Have I ever told you how soft your hands are? I think that went all right, Star smiled at her brothers in arms. Star, she passed out mid-flight, Aaron deadpanned. Yeah, but then she said she was happy to see me when she woke up. That counts as a win in my books. Today I'll be teaching you how to take off using my master's quirk, Toshinori stated. Nana, I don't mean to sound rude, but shouldn't you be teaching this instead? Izuku thought to the vestiges. It'll be fine. Besides, I want to give Toshi a chance to grow into his own as a teacher, Nana responded. Whatever you say. All right, young Midoriya, follow my motions, Toshinori instructed. First, you bend your knees. Right. Then, you look up at the sky. Uh-huh. Funnel as much energy into your legs as you can. A wave of green sparks washed over Izuku's legs. And then, Toshinori's eyes squinted in determination. And then, you let it all loose. Izuku proceeded to let it all loose and shot into the air like a bullet on crack, kicking up enough particles to create a dust storm that knocked Toshinori to the other side of the beach. Young Midoriya! Toshinori darted his head around as the sand cleared, looking for where his successor might have landed. He would soon receive his answer when he heard his phone ping. All Might, it's me! I'm in space! I hit the Hubble telescope! There's a huge dent! What do I do? Izuku panicked. Calm down, my boy. Leave a note telling them to send the bill to Might Tower. Also, new order yourself to temperature resistance as you come down. Trust me, the atmosphere is a lot hotter than it looks. Mr. President! Mr. President! Yeah, what is it? President DeVito asked as his secretary ran in. I just got a report from NASA. They said a green-haired teenage boy just dented the Hubble telescope. The president's eyes lowered at the description of the boy. Did he happen to have freckles, too? Yes. President DeVito groaned as he buried his face in his hands. Gosh darn it, Star. Chew. Bless you, Izuku said. Thanks, Legacy, Kathleen said as she wiped her nose. Izuku still wasn't used to being called by his hero name, but since they were on patrol now, he had to get used to it. Besides, he was used to calling Kathleen by her hero name, even in casual situations. This was just tit for tat. Star, I have a question. I have an answer. Why are we patrolling in Hosu of all places? Because it's a canon event. Izuku snickered. Spider-Verse reference. But for real, why are we in Hosu? Crime rates have been low around here ever since the hero killer came around. Me and All Might were hoping for something low-key at your first patrol. But what if we run into the hero killer? What if he hero kills us? I mean, didn't you break 27 knives while trying to test your durability earlier today? But what if he has 28 knives? You could just new order yourself to repel all metal not inside your body. Huh. Guess I could. Kathleen shot out an arm in front of Izuku to stop him. Oh, hold that thought. Here comes the press. Within seconds, Kathleen and her protege were swarmed by a torrent of reporters, with microphones and notepads shoved in their faces. Star and Stripe, why have you taken on an intern in Japan? One reporter asked. I heard through the grapevine that he had a quirk similar to mine, and I took it as my civic duty to help train him into the hero he was always meant to be. Before any of you ask, no, I will not be sharing any details about the nature of either of our quirks. Izuku let out a nervous squeak as a reporter got up in his face. You there, what's your hero name? What's it like working with Star and Stripe? Why didn't you use your quirk at the sports festival? Izuku could feel himself freeze in place in real time. He had just gotten into the hero course. He didn't have the social skills or confidence to deal with reporters at this point in his career. What was he supposed to do? Oh wait, new order. I have increased confidence and social skills, Izuku mumbled, quietly enough that only he could hear himself. Suddenly, the words began to slowly and calmly flow out of his mouth. Hi, nice to meet you. You can call me Legacy because I have a lot to live up to with this quirk, and you better believe I'm going to do my best. Working with Star has been a blast so far. She always likes to keep me on my toes during training. She's aiming to prepare me for anything, and I'd say she's doing a good job. As for the sports festival, I was a bit of a late bloomer. Placing first was the final step I needed to fully unlock my quirk, and that's all I'll say on the matter. You heard him. That's all he'll say. No more questions. Kathleen shooed the crowd of reporters away. That was stressful, Izuku sighed as he dropped the order. I don't know how you do it, Star. Star smirked. You'll find out when we do confidence training tomorrow. Can't rely on new order for everything. Never hurts to have a free slot, you know? Unfortunately, I know. Izuku groaned, dreading the idea of confidence training. Social situations were his one weakness. Chin up, kid. Hopefully this will be the most interesting thing to happen to you tonight. Suddenly, a fiery explosion sounded off in the distance. I jinxed it. You jinxed it. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed Chapter 8 as much as I did. I'll see you all soon for Chapter 9. Just thank you so much for listening. Patch out.